This video has been kicking rocks around in my brain for quite some time, and I figure it's as good of a time as any to make it. This is something that's incredibly important to me. It's quite literally the focus of my life. So with that in mind, I've come to the desert with the hope of yapping until the sun goes down and assembling that yapping into something comprehensive and interesting for you guys. If that sounds good, stay tuned, watch the whole thing. Don't leave your comments until you've watched the whole thing. I'm gonna be very, very thorough, or at least try my damnedest to be. You might be wondering why the desert? I don't know. Unless you live under a big dang ding dang rock like this one, you've probably heard the story that YouTubers are making movies. Whether it's in regards to Talk to Me, Shelby Oaks, Iron Lung, Obsession, Backrooms, these are all people who got their start on YouTube and have transitioned into making theatrical releases. Very exciting stuff. The thing is, I could have told you this 20 years ago. Any of us watching YouTube 20 years ago could have told you that these people who are editing, shooting, directing, releasing stuff, getting audience feedback, building a fan base, these people are honing their craft and they're good at it. It's not that much of a revelation to make the jump that give these people enough money, they'll make something interesting. So it is a bit tiresome to see these executives and these media outlets time and time again have to be hit over the head with the same narrative. But with that said, still exciting. Let's just hope this time it sticks and we don't have to have this revelation another 5 times. Something I find interesting about this story is I really fail to see how it's that different from filmmakers who got their start making movies with Roger Corman or Lloyd Kaufman in Trauma like James Gunn, or making music videos, or Richard Linklater and Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez making movies themselves, David Lynch, Darren Aronofsky, Christopher Nolan, Peter Jackson. All these people made movies on their own with the cheapest tools available to them, and then through whatever means necessary were able to get the attention of the industry to create further projects and budgeted projects. All that YouTube is a distribution platform. It's a way to get your stuff to audiences. And this media narrative of, can you believe YouTubers can make a movie? Sort of hinges on a premise that being a YouTuber is somehow less than. It's hinged on a premise that YouTubers were settling for this and the lucky few squeak out. And I think the most interesting part of the narrative is the fact that it's this distribution platform that has the least gatekeepers ever. These people were able to build whole careers and have a whole audience waiting for whatever they make, and not a single person ever had to give them approval. Unlike Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez, they didn't need to get distributed by Columbia and Miramax to get their movies and their stuff seen. They didn't need somebody to lift them up like David Lynch and Mel Brooks, somebody to give them the thumbs up and have their back. You know, that's all fine and dandy once people do get that, but YouTube doesn't require that for you to reach millions of people. And that is such a bold, new, exciting possibility that I think it's so discounted when we treat it as some miracle that talented people exist on this platform, and that those people now have the gift of leaving it. Sorry. When I was a kid, my mom showed my brother and I Forrest Gump. And I remember instantly feeling like I had just seen the best movie I'd ever see in my life. And for 5 to 6 years, that belief held true. I always loved Forrest Gump. My Mount Rushmore was Forrest, Jenny, Lieutenant Dan, and Bubba. And I remember in one gym class, a kid made a Run Forrest Run reference, and I got really defensive. I'm like, don't make fun of that movie. That movie's really good, actually. And, you know, maybe I even sent a kid to Blockbuster that day to rent it and give it a chance. So, Robert Zemeckis, if you want to send a check in the mail, I'll leave my address right here. My brother, our friend Alex, and I were the perfect age where you still had to go to ungodly corners of the internet in order to find videos. You had to go to E-Bomb's world just to find peanut butter jelly time. Look it up, funniest shit I've ever seen. But one day we were watching videos on a new platform, and I almost wish I remember the exact moment I was first shown YouTube, because it became ubiquitous overnight, it feels like. And I don't even remember where it came from. But suddenly we were watching creators like Smosh and Ryan Higa, and these people just doing goofy stuff themselves, and you knew who was making it. Unlike Peanut Butter Jelly Time, which must have been made by some cosmic entity we were all unaware of, you saw the channel, you saw the person who made it, and they were putting videos out directly to you. Whoa. And that was so exciting. Something we were already obsessed with doing was making goofy home videos to make ourselves laugh. One funny example I remember is we went to the backyard and asked my dad if we could borrow a bunch of rope, and we were just kids. And he came up an hour later and he found the Santa lawn decoration hung from the swing set. Frosty the Snowman was the culprit. It was really dark shit. It was called The Hanging of Santa Claus. And I remember when we wanted to show this, we had to plug the AV cables into the CRT, gather mom, dad around and be like, hey, watch this. And they really loved it. But now we see Smosh. We see these people not that much older than us doing the exact same thing, making themselves laugh, but now they're reaching thousands and thousands of people. And it wasn't for money at the time. It wasn't for a career. It was just fun. And the same way you'd gather your family around YouTube felt like they were gathering all us kids who were already in love with this process around to watch. And I remember as soon as we figured out how to upload to YouTube, we did. And my first upload ever is in 2007. We made Hawk Tuohy. In some ways, Hawk Tuohy was Hawk Tuah before Hawk Tuah. You know, it was like Hawk Wanna. I also remember my brother, my friend John, and I remade Ryan Higa's How to Be Ninja. And it's probably for the best that that one is lost to the sands of time, just as all things will sometime be. Perhaps even more influential on us than Ryan Higa and Smosh were the Stick Figures on Crack animated videos. I don't know if you guys know these. We thought they were the funniest things possibly ever made. And lo and behold, we find this program called Pivot. It's a frame-by-frame stick figure animator. And we're like, hold up. We have fun using this program. We have unregistered Hypercam version 2. You guys remember it. We have YouTube. So all the tools were in front of us to recreate what we like. And we did that. We made stick figures on Snacks. We made stick figures on Shaq. They're pretty bad knockoffs, but the titles are incredible. And it just goes to show when kids have the tools in front of them to create the things they like to watch, they are going to give it a big swing. And there's nothing more powerful in this world than feeling like you can. How come no one told me the desert was hot? Hey, not bad, right? Pretty big glow up. First part of the video was like talking to business guy. Now we're talking to party guy. tricked you. Just sound design. I wasn't actually peeing. And that brings us back to Forrest Gump. I had to scamper so much to get up here, and I'm not brave enough to be up here, so give me 1 minute. Was Forrest Gump my favorite movie of all time? Absolutely. Did Forrest Gump ever inspire my friends and I to run out and start shooting that day? I don't think so. And obviously Forrest Gump is a silly example of this. It's an extravagant movie with special effects and so many extras. But nonetheless, as a kid, every movie you see feels too magical to touch. It feels intangible. You know, as a kid, I'd see a movie and be like, I don't know when I'd ever get to the chance to do that. Maybe when I'm 30, maybe when I'm 40, if I get lucky. You know, this is a plague that I see falls on all young filmmakers, this aspiring filmmaker mentality of if I get to make my movie. So many people have said, if I get to make my movie, and it's just such a toxic mindset. We have decades and decades of people doing it in spite of everything, and you have no excuse to not say when anymore. And then YouTube comes along, this beautiful, inspiring place where people are just doing it, and I know it has been slopified, I know it's been Mr. Beastified, but nonetheless, there's still so much good stuff being done on YouTube. The animation space has never stopped thriving on YouTube, and maybe financially, but like as far as creativity, it is beautiful. And there's tools like Blender, there's tools like DaVinci, free tools that you could practice a little every day and get amazing at. And you know, there's no excuse anymore. And if you're like me and you want to close that gap between filmmaking and YouTube, cinema and YouTube, and you see that they're not so different, you're reaching audiences on the same screens. And that's why I'm so hell-bent on saying this over and over again and staying on this platform to say it, is because it is liberating in a way that nothing else is. So time went on and I got older, and all through high school I had a number of YouTube channels. Then I went to film school and I found out the right way to do things. And all through film school I kept uploading to YouTube. I had shorts and experiments I would post on there. And then after film school I'm like, hold up, I don't like the right way to do things at all. It doesn't make filmmaking interesting to me. Everyone's done that. What else is there? And I remembered YouTube. How could I forget? It's been there all along. And I was like, okay, let's take a big earnest swing at doing this thing. And I started the weekly uploads and I kept at it for years. And the rest is history. Now I support myself off of my films. It's for these reasons, among many others, that one of the things I seek to do most on my YouTube channel is be transparent with my audience. I've seen firsthand how encouraging it is to see somebody share their process or make do with what they've got. And encouragement is a resource as good as gold, and I hope I could give back as much encouragement as I have taken from this platform. And it's no mistake that every step of my YouTube journey, every step of my filmmaking journey is public. I have laid it out for you. Even the privileges I've had. I had a family place to live at in New York for a couple years. That allowed me to do the weekly uploads easier. Not everyone is gonna have that. But nonetheless, I have laid it all out. You can make a movie in a small town for $200. 10 years ago, that's what I did in bumfuck nowhere, Massachusetts. You can make a movie in a strange town. That's what I did with my second movie, 31 Days in Marshall, North Carolina. I've been really deliberate about always having my steps be followable, so young filmmakers and people who need encouragement feel like they at least have a path, even if there's some algorithmic god's luck that you need along the way. And that brings us back to these YouTuber movies in theaters. I specifically want to focus on Obsession, Backrooms, and Iron Lung. This video does not intend to be a review of any of these movies. I think they are all worthwhile movies that you should check out and form your own opinion on. I more so want to take a critical look at how these movies came to be and whether or not they are this next step forward in filmmaking that we are being told they are. Last year, I became enamored with a band called Geese, as well as their frontman, Cameron Winter. And it seemed like everyone under the sun was as well. They put out 2 great albums and no one could stop talking about them. Jump ahead to this year, and a PR firm reveals that they were behind the Geese blow up. They created a bunch of artificial hype by paying meme pages, creating meme pages, running bot accounts in order to get Geese into the conversation in some new age marketing tactic. And as a huge fan of the music, I couldn't help but be like, oh, that kind of sucks. You know, it sucks to find out you were essentially manipulated into liking and hearing something. And that's not to say it affects the quality of the music, but there are so many people making music just as good as Geese, just as talented as Geese, who might not have the resources or might not have the want to do a psyop in order to get their fans. And that's what the article called this thing. They called it a psyop. My friend Tom joked, he's like, what if this psyop is just a psyop for the PR firm? You never know these days. We're being manipulated from every angle, and I just want to hear good music. Of these three filmmakers, the one I probably share the most DNA with is Curry Barker. We are both people who used YouTube to create sketches that were cinematic and allowed us to flex our filmmaking edge, allowed us to edge. And Curry would go on to make Milk and Cereal, which was an $800 movie he released independently on his YouTube channel, which is awesome. Check it out, it's worth a watch. Soon after he releases that movie, I see a bunch of variety and entertainment articles talking about this $800 movie taking the internet by storm. And mind you, this is in the middle of my year making 12 movies of similar scope and scale, many of which were bigger in scale, to absolute crickets from the media. I later find out that Curry has a very connected agent, and they hired a PR firm in order to drum up this story, to spin that into the funding for Obsession, to get Obsession out there. Now, I don't want to point fingers and wag fingers, but I do feel like this is where I go back to transparency. Because it is not such a big deal to manipulate your way into success and to make a good movie that people enjoy and get it seen. That is not such a big deal. Where it becomes a big deal is when a young filmmaker wants to follow in your footsteps and they're like, ooh, I want to make my own Milk and Cereal in order to have a similar trajectory. Then they go out and make a great independent film, put it out, and no one cares because no one told them this step of having a good agent and a PR firm on your side. And Curry's going around in interviews talking about just make a movie, just make a movie. And that's fine and dandy. I say that shit all the time. But where it feels like pulling up the ladder is leaving out those details. And I doubt anyone's telling him to, but once you do that, like Geese, you kind of got to keep the secret. Because once the secret's out, it gives your fans a moment of, oh, that stinks. Next up, Curry Barker's movie Obsession hits theaters and becomes one of the most profitable movies of all time. On a $750,000 budget, it makes hundreds of millions of dollars. It's awesome when we see this. We saw it with Napoleon Dynamite. We saw it with, well, I wasn't there, but American Graffiti did really well. It's nice when a smaller movie that isn't a blockbuster, isn't a franchise, does really well, takes the world by storm. Another conversation we're seeing in regards to the profit of this movie is the art director came out and said, hey, I made $300 a day on this movie, $6,000 total. Curry made $15 million off the sale, and now Focus Features is looking to make $200 million off of distributing it. And it's like, hold up, somebody who is so instrumental in making this piece of art is making a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what these executives and big dogs are making. Are we actually just celebrating Focus Features when we're celebrating Obsession? Because at some point past that $15 million that Curry got, unless he has a hell of a back end deal, we are just celebrating Focus Features getting richer, and it's just not that interesting to me. Obviously, it's maybe a utopia I'm envisioning, but it would be nice for art to support the people who made that art directly. And I think that's what she's trying to say. She's not trying to call out Curry, neither am I with this video, but I think she's trying to start a dialogue. And it's so obnoxious to see these comments online be like, well, she just blacklisted herself. This was a stupid career move. She could have gotten an art directing job for sure. And it's just like, come on, God forbid somebody say something of substance. Everyone is so terrified of actually saying something in the film industry. And then when somebody does, these film bros lose their shit because they are so brainwashed in one way of making things. Whoa, 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 whoa. We gotta settle down a bit. Listen, I do not want this to be a drama video. I don't want people going at it in the comments and I certainly don't want an article written about this. You know, the only time the mainstream media has come to me and written an article is when SNL stole my sketch. Negativity. They just leech off of negativity and they spread it like a virus, and I fucking hate it. You know, the only publication that reached out to me during that time was the Wall Street Journal, and this is what I told them. I told them, hey guys, I think this is pretty lame that you're focusing on this trivial negative thing when me and my audience and other creators have done so much positive with our platforms, and we've created so much art and so many movies. And I told them all of this, and you know how much of that statement wound up in their article? None. None. If you are a reporter trying to write some negative spin article about this video, go away! Leave! Go! Thank you. I can already see the comment. Man discovers marketing exists and screams in the desert, which is a pretty funny comment. Feel free to steal it. But as somebody like me who has spent so much of my life, my time, my energy into hoping to show people a new kind of filmmaking where you don't have to play these old world games and you could get your stuff made and get it seen, it's just frustrating to see the media co-opt this narrative and conveniently leave out details. And in that situation, I feel the need to set the record straight, because we are always going to have uphill battles as filmmakers. But if we don't know when the hills are coming, we're going to trip and fall on our face. If you're walking ahead and you already did the hill, tell the people how you got up that hill and tell them honestly. Please. Walking shot. Walking shot. Excuse me. Walking shot. Walking shot. Kane Parsons, who made the Backrooms YouTube series and now the Backrooms movie, it's safe to say this guy's one of those once-in-a-generation geniuses. What he was able to make at just 16 years old on YouTube is mind-boggling. Quickly, here's an example of what I was making at 16 years old.
I think this is your future.
Yeah.
See?
And now here's what Kane was making at 16 years old. To be that young and have such a firm grasp on aesthetics and pacing and music and 3D animation, it is mind-boggling. It's no wonder that his series took the internet by storm. It's fantastic. And soon enough, a studio came knocking. It was A24, and they said, make the movie version. I'm not gonna go into my deeper thoughts on the movie version, but I will say the strongest parts of the movie is when it was aping the YouTube series, when it was doing the found footage stuff that made that series so strong to begin with. So it really just speaks to what a brilliant person this Kane Parsons guy is. He was, the best part of it is the stuff he was making alone in his bedroom in the first place, which it speaks to a really exciting time for creativity. Before Kane even made the A24 version of Backrooms, he had already inspired a whole generation of young filmmakers. People who saw the Backrooms went to download Blender, just like my brother and I saw Stick Figures on Crack and downloaded Pivot. It is addicting to see something that you know you could make and trying your hand at it. And so many young people got that experience through Kane's videos on YouTube. And it's cool to see him play in the studio system. It's cool to see somebody who's so young that they have a sincere reverence for the internet and storytelling and gaming be in the studio, and to have the sense that maybe he's not done on the internet. I feel like so many people, once they make that jump, there's sort of a good riddance energy. And it'd be nice to see more people stick around, to see somebody like stick around and make their movie on YouTube after they've already made a studio movie, because why the hell not? An alternative title for this video could easily be, watch Joel get more disheveled as his voice gets shredded. Yeah, talk for 9 hours straight. That's a good idea, Joel. Not. with all these YouTubers suddenly making horror movies, it's hard not to ask, why horror? You know, like all these sketch comedians already have gone to horror movies like Zach Krager and Jordan Peele, and now YouTubers are doing it. And perhaps from the studio's perspective at least, the easy answer is it's what sells. Historically, horror is the safest bet for a low-budget film, so studios are willing to take that gamble. And maybe we are celebrating a bit too soon when the only movies that YouTubers can get made are spooky ones. I would love for a YouTuber to break into Hollywood making a heartfelt family drama, or a slice of life movie, or a hilarious comedy. And maybe that has yet to come, but it does make me think of one person who is being left out of this conversation. Not him, but I forgot to mention Mystery Guitar Man as one of my biggest influences, and he did this first. He went off and made a bunch of movies, so good for him. But the person I was talking about is this person. At this point in the video, I had intended to cut to an interview clip of Bo Burnham that I saw when he released 8th grade, where the interviewer says, how does it feel to graduate past YouTube and make these more legitimate works of art? And Bo says something to the effect of, I disagree with that. People are making things online that way more people care about than my stuff. And I can't find that clip. I'm going insane. I've looked for 2 hours, can't find it anywhere. I saw it 7 years ago. Anyways, I found a Reddit AMA where he says something quite similar. Somebody asked him, was there ever a point in your career that you thought, I've made it as an actor/comedian? Bo Burnham responds, you know, that was a problem for me for a long time, believing that I hadn't made it yet, or I wasn't a real comedian. I think it's especially prevalent for people that make things online, that making YouTube videos isn't real. It took me a long time to realize that I had been real the whole time. And the thing that I am pursuing was the thing I was pursuing doing theater in 6th grade. Do you write? You're a writer. Do you act? You're an actor. I'd say don't wait to get some arbitrary version of success or attention for you to believe that you are doing the thing. You really can start enjoying it right away. There you have it. I really love that clip of Bo Burnham. I think it really emphasizes something I'm trying to hammer home in this video, and that's that there's not this hierarchy of value with independent work versus YouTube work versus studio industry work. I think society, capitalism wants us to believe that where the money is the best place. Where the audience is, where the buyers are, the consumers are, is the best place. But that's simply not the case. There's just as much success and fulfillment to be found reaching a single person, just expressing yourself independently. It's not as black and white as people want you to believe. And Bo Burnham is a YouTuber who made a movie. He made 8th grade, but he was kind of already doing these Netflix stand-up specials, so he had moved away from YouTube already a little bit at the time. But there's a YouTuber making a movie that's not a horror movie. It's a really beautiful, like, incisive look at what it means to be a kid, especially in this day and age when we're always being made to reflect on ourselves, perhaps before we even know who we truly are. And it's a really beautiful film. And I'd love to see more movies like that come out of YouTube, because I know people on YouTube have a lot to share when it comes to humanity and thematics and more down-to-earth topics that perhaps a studio wouldn't typically make a movie about. And I'm curious what that would look like. Here's the thing, I am well aware that most of this is inside baseball. The average person does not give a damn the machinations by which an artwork or movie gets in front of them. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. It's a tale as old as time. The studio markets what's marketable, people go to what's popular. That's film history. And if new voices are being added to this and given a chance to take a swing at it, that's amazing. I'd love even more new voices to take the lead. I'd love them to take even bigger swings, different genres. But with all that said, I just want to reassure people that that's not the only path. If you're like me and you're turned off by the bureaucracy of it, the handshakiness of it, the business side of it, and you'd rather just create artwork yourself, there are other paths. other paths? Well, if you have followed my Joel Talks About Movies channel, you know I talk ad nauseum about John Cassavetes. He is a renegade filmmaker who in the 50s made an independent film before most anyone else was doing it. He funded it by calling radio stations, putting out newspaper ads, and he made it with his friends. And then by doing that, he made several studio movies, absolutely hated the experience, and from there on out, just about every movie he just made with his friends, his wife, and he made them alone, owned them independently, self-financed them, went broke sometimes, mortgaged his house, but he made movies that he could call his own and that were his own style with no compromise, and they're some of the greatest movies ever made. And I don't think what John Cassavetes did is impossible nowadays. In fact, I think it's easier than ever. You don't have to pay for film stock. You know, the tools are at our fingertips to make stuff. The editing software, you don't need a Steam Deck. So John Cassavetes, if you watch interviews, you want to see somebody get riled up about filmmaking and yap about it like I do. John Cassavetes is absolutely such an inspiration, and I encourage you watch both his movies and his interviews.
So we started our film without any money, and we just used people that would help us to make the film only because of their idealistic attitudes toward filmmaking, which is, in America, a business, not an art. So we are saying, with your business, and we'll try to make it some kind of an art. Art meaning that we will enjoy ourselves and express ourselves freely.
Another more modern example of an independent filmmaker I really love is Don Hertzfeldt. If you don't know Don Hertzfeldt, he's an independent animator. He's made several features and short films that are all animated, mostly just by himself. And his movie, It's Such a Beautiful Day, is one of the greatest films of all time. And he's made several amazing short films that are some of the best short films of all time. And just this month, he released a movie called Paper Trail on his Vimeo. All of his movies, he distributes himself. He makes them rent or buy on Vimeo. And he runs the festival circuit, but chooses to maintain ownership. And I think that is so awesome to see somebody making such singular work and deciding, hey, I put in all this legwork. I put in all the work into making this happen. I want to own this. I want this to be mine. I don't want to give it away. And Don Hertzfeldt, a renegade. Go rent and watch Paper Trail. It's one of the best short films ever made. Last but not least is Iron Lung, directed by Markiplier. It's kind of funny to talk about Iron Lung because step one of making Iron Lung feels like be Markiplier. And this is not to discount the hard work he put into it, but Iron Lung feels a bit like YouTube's Megaopolis, where of course, Markiplier was able to get millions of dollars to make this movie and then do this huge theatrical run because he has the connections. I'm sure he hired help to make that happen, and most people don't have that ability. With that said, it's not impossible to be Markiplier. You know, maybe it's getting harder and harder every day, and YouTube demands you be Mr. Beast to do that, and being a Let's Player is no longer sort of the move to get big on YouTube. But you can find something that makes you singular and makes you stand out enough that you could build a career on YouTube and then spin it into a movie. It doesn't have to be as big as Iron Lung. You don't need to distribute it everywhere, but it is really cool that a YouTuber made a movie, put it out in theaters themselves, and it was a box office hit. It beat some Hollywood movies that weekend. I think that is really cool that distribution was handled by Markiplier and his team, and that feels like a guiding light, even if there is a layer of impossibility as far as the scale of what a normal person would be able to do compared to him. Yeah. At the end of the day, there's an infinite number of ways to make a movie, and none of them are right. I'm never claiming I have the right, most morally pure way. I just make movies the way I like doing them, and I like it so much. I get passionate, I shout, I want to share it with people. And if I could help you at all feel encouraged to make a movie, that is really the greatest feeling in the world. So thank you so much for watching this big, long, rambly video. I hope it proved to be interesting and worth your while. I love you guys, and I love movies. Have a great night. I had hoped to finish editing this video and feel like I had said enough, but unfortunately I could talk about this stuff for hours on end. I just wanted to add a few little notes at the end here. Firstly, I am under no disillusion that YouTube and Google are somehow better corporations than Disney or A24. Ultimately, I just think as a creator, it's way more appealing to post on YouTube because you retain ownership of your stuff. You could distribute it however you want after it's been on YouTube. You could do physical releases, theatrical runs, stuff like that. Things you wouldn't retain ownership over usually in a distribution deal, in a contract with a company. So I think that's awesome about YouTube, and I think in this day and age, it's very important we have some artists who want to retain radical ownership of their work. Because, you know, with the obsession discussion around Focus Features making $200 million off of this little indie film, you know, it's frustrating that time and time again, corporations are just leeching off of these artists and making way more money than those artists get to see. And I get that they have the power to get this stuff out there and seen and make that money. But ultimately, I would love for artists to stop being dependent on these companies that seek to just profit off of them, because that pushes you down this path where you have to make increasingly marketable decisions and sign increasingly restrictive contracts unless you're very lucky. And lastly, there are so many other paths in filmmaking that I wish I listed at the end. I could go on forever. A few little examples. Louise Weird is making this castration anthology trilogy of movies that are these 5-hour epics that she makes with her friends, and those are doing really well, being distributed independently and in theaters, and that's really exciting to see. Also, Reckless Ben, who I interviewed, he's making this incredible documentary series about Legos being stolen that has taken the internet by storm, and his stuff is way more YouTube friendly perhaps than like my features or your features, but nonetheless, I don't think that distribution model of supporting yourself on Patreon and off of merch is completely inaccessible to narrative filmmakers or experimental filmmakers or this or that. I think you could find your audience online and have them support you, even if you're going beyond the realm of YouTube content friendly stuff. This is all to say, thank you so much for watching. I could talk more and more. I've talked enough across the internet about this stuff, so you could find more of my thoughts. But thanks for watching. I love you guys. Bye bye.